Good news, everyone!
It's Jake Ciely.
And there's a surprise in your cereal box. I'm great! Everybody else sucks! Let's get dangerous!
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's time to check the lid.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is week 18 of the fantasy football season, and just because you're bat crap crazy, so are we. We are here to cover week 18, but we'll do more than just cover week 18, just in case you don't play because you're smart and you're not playing your championship. But maybe do a one-off, maybe just do some DFS, or which, by the way, is that confirmed? Can I say it, Meaney? Are you special guesting? Is that actually happening tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard from Joe this week, but I'm in if you guys need somebody. I'm in.
So, yeah, Meaney will be coming back to the DFS guest show tomorrow with Joe Holka, which means it'll be the Holka Meaney Jake show, which means we have to talk Beowulf at some point, right? And get that show canceled, too. So, what's going on this week?
Worst week ever, really, to kind of dive into everything.
I don't know, because it makes it a little softer because you're trying to find, like, okay, that's a great pivot. Thank you for that. Or I guess not a pivot or a segue is if I could talk in week 18. Who cares? It's week 18. I don't even care if I mess up words now. We can make up all the words we want. Right, Lauren? Right. They're going to talk
Again.
potential of resting teams. We have 6 with their situation locked. We have Baltimore, Kansas City, Cleveland on the AFC side. Baltimore is the number 1. Kansas City won the division. Can't really change much. Cleveland's locked in the wild card. They're not changing anything. San Francisco is just like Baltimore. They locked in the number 1 seed. Detroit won their division. And the Rams are in the wild card just like the Browns. The interesting thing is, you might take a guess which of the 6 teams sounds like they want to play their starters? It's Campbell and the Lions. Now, we'll talk about them in a second, but it does sound like the Ravens and 49ers are going full-on rest, mostly because there's a lot of injuries here. Christian McCaffrey's already been, not, I don't say ruled out, but they already said he's not playing week 18. The interesting thing here is, and let's go there for the people that do play in week 18, guys, is Sam Darnold, talked about last week, could be in play as the top 15 quarterback if Brock Purdy happened to sit out. But Sam Darnold's now going to be playing with backups like, by the way, I don't know if you know, he could be activated or not. The great Willie Snead IV could actually be playing in this game. I know. Backup tight ends, backup players. It might not even be Elijah Mitchell because he had his first full game of the season. It could be Jordan Mason. So, do you even touch this offense, Meaney? Because, it's week 18, so you're going to have to find solutions because if you have a lot of Ravens, you have a lot of 49ers. Chiefs sound almost certain. The Rams, with all their injuries, I would be shocked if they played anything more than a quarter. So you're going to find solutions, but that being said, full-on backups is a whole nother story.
Yeah, I think it's still a little early. I think we're going to hear some more news on other teams, too, that may sit some guys. Like I heard Cincinnati may just shut down Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. These guys have been, banged up all year long. The Eagles, I wouldn't be surprised if they rest a majority of their players as well. But this Baltimore... the Baltimore.
If you screw up our draft pick just because you're resting because you crapped the bed at the end of the season, we're so angry with them.
They should rest, really. Like, there's no reason to throw it. They can't move up. They can't move down. They're like,
they can move up.
Assuming the Cowboys are going to take care of business and beat Washington.
And stranger things have happened. The Commanders have won.
They were in this spot last year, actually.
Your team just lost to the Cardinals. So there you go. Stranger things could happen.
Sure, there's 2 teams trending in different directions, but absolutely. As for San Fran and LA, I thought it would be Elijah earlier in the week, but I did hear yesterday that it may just they may rest him. I can't imagine Purdy's playing Debo, Kittle, or Ayuk. And on the Rams side of things too, like they're locked in now with that win last week and the Seattle loss. So it's another one. Like Cooper Kupp has been just battling through some injuries. Matthew Stafford. There's no point in rolling these guys out. Ronnie Hillman, Royce Freeman. Those are probably
Ronnie
Rivers.
Ronnie Hillman.
Sorry,
Ronnie Hillman. Wow.
Crap.
Well,
you did mention Willie Snead.
No.
So, yeah, I think maybe if you're looking for something in this game, I would be looking at just those backup running backs. I think there's like a few teams across the board that are going to lean on their third or fourth string running backs this week.
Well, then, Lauren, you probably have the easier answer here because even though it's backups, it feels like the Ravens are an easier team to pick from because you have Tyler Huntley who will run the ball. If they don't use Gus Edwards or Justice Hill, the running corpse of Melvin Gordon last week actually had some burst to it. You could use Melvin Gordon, and then will the wide receivers become a giant question too? Maybe put Willie Snead back on that team. But Tylan Wallace, everybody, maybe he gets to play. So would you actually put it this way? I'll phrase yours a little different than Meaney's. If you had to pick one team and you had to start two players from one team, would you rather go to the Ravens or would you rather go to the 49ers backups? Which team would you prefer?
This is tough. I think I'm going to echo what Chris Meaney said a little earlier. I think it's too early to tell exactly what's going to be happening across the board with some of these teams who can afford to sit players. My biggest concern when I want to make this decision is, do I want to go to the team that I know is likely going to be resting their starters? I think I might want to dip my toes into those waters as opposed to trying to gamble on a team that may get up early and then by halftime sit their starters and then have their backups just play the rest of the time. It's a very fine line. I think I would kind of have to go with your gut on these, which is why I never want to play week 18 because this is absolutely crazy. But I think I might want to take a shot on the Ravens.
I just want to jump in quickly because the Ravens are interesting. Have they said fully? I'm sure they're going to rest some guys, but I remember a couple of years ago they rested a bunch of guys in the final week, even though they had a bye, and then out of that bye they lost. And there was a lot of talk about the 2-week layover. I could see, not that this really matters from fantasy, but I could see maybe some of the starters playing the first quarter and a half, just a little bit.
That's what Lauren's just talking about. Is that you could get the same thing from the Lions.
Exactly.
Like they said, they're not resting, but do you really think Goff and Gibbs has been dinged up at times? Montgomery's missed time. Amon-Ra St. Brown's been dinged up. Jameson Williams hasn't been healthy the entire year. I was like handful of weeks have been like, oh, look, he's finally off the injury report. Laporta got banged up just a few weeks ago. Like, do you really think? I mean, I know Campbell's a psychopath, but that's why we love him in the good version of the psychopath, like Con Air. But at the same time, like on the flip side is, do you really think they're going to play all 4 quarters? This is like what Lauren's saying is like you could do the Giants. Like, what if it's 3 out of the 4 quarters and it's like, hey, I got a pretty good game, or is it 1 because they got up 14-0? It's all right. Now time for it's preseason. We're trying to play preseason,
yes.
but the thing is, it's half preseason because we have half the league we can still rely on, but it's the other half that's going to create this frustration.
Yeah, and if the refs didn't botch that call last week on Saturday against the Cowboys, then this game would be very meaningful for them.
I'm not siding with the refs. I'm just saying there's two sides to this story, and just unless we finally. No, because it was like if 100%. We get the, hold on. If they get the official audio, I want the official audio lined up with the timing that he's looking at. And they tried to play games, and kudos. You don't want to be like, I'm eligible, everybody. Ha, look at me. But they went up there on purpose with 2 different people. Actually, had a third guy kind of run through at the one point, and then said he's eligible. Ran away. They announced it over the PA. When you heard it announced over the PA, should have been like, you announced the wrong person, whatever. Like, you knew, like, this was on them. They tried to play games. You don't want to be clear on what you're doing. But at the same time, the ref, whether or not he's confused, I'm not giving him, like, if he was confused, that's on him. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying this is like, you ruined the game, referee.
He ruined the game. You're never going to convince me otherwise.
Okay.
Unless I do hear the audio.
I think we should talk about, what if I do like this? I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about next, and then I'm going to whisper it with my hand over my mouth and see if you can guess. How about that?
I mean, I forget the names now, but 70 came in way later than 68. But anyways, it's a conversation for another day. Maybe the audio will get released, but I would assume it doesn't because of how bad that reffing crew will look.
I doubt the audio is going to get released. Sorry to interrupt you there, Jake. I doubt the audio is going to get released. The referee committee, I don't know what it's called. They have doubled down and have said that they believe this was the correct call. So
See?
If the audio does contradict that whatsoever, you're sure as heck not going to hear that at all. So I think that's going to be done now. It's not going to come out.
For Meaney, I think part of it is the Draymond Green situation where like this referee's crew has messed up enough that that's just why it looks bad, is because it's not like one of the best. It's actually one of the most, I don't know, it's not worse, but like incorrect, get things wrong the most. Whatever. Let's get back to fantasy. Let me ask you this question. So, Lauren, if I told you have to start Tyler Huntley or Jared Goff, but we know today, like, again, we have time. We might find out the Ravens are starting their players for at least half. But let's say I told you today, Ravens resting everybody. Tyler Huntley is starting the game, or Jared Goff unknown. Would you risk the Goff unknown, or would you just go cut Huntley because you know you're going to get a full game out of him?
I'm going to go Huntley for that exact reason, because I know I'm going to get a full game out of him. And he also is talented. So I don't mind Huntley's play either. So it's not like it's, okay, well, it's the backup. I know he's going to play all 4 quarters. He can get it done through the air and on the ground. So I do like that about Huntley, regardless of who's going to be starting over Goff in the situation. But this is the first time that the Lions have been here in 30 years. I don't think that Dan Campbell is psychopathic enough to risk injury going into the postseason. So I think what they're going to try to do is get ahead and then limit those other guys, sprinkle in just enough to diminish the volume, which is what we really like in fantasy. So I'm going to go with the overall king of fantasy football, which is volume, and I'm going to go with Tyler Huntley, who I also think is gifted.
Mr. Dice Guy, the Cowboys are not resting anybody. They have to win for the division. So if they lose, they can still win, but they're not resting anybody. It's 4 o'clock. They're playing. Yeah, they're playing at the same time as the Eagles. So this is both 4 o'clock. So this isn't going to be anything in the book. So no worries about the Cowboys sitting anybody, but do worry about the entire Chiefs sitting. But hey, if you're relying on Mahomes or Kelsey, you didn't get here anyway. So haha on that one. But maybe that's a story we're going to hear on our new album in a month or two or whatever. My tight end is loose or something. I don't know. I got to let it go. No Browns, likely. Sounds like they're actually resting, like officially. Like
they can't move at all.
He said without saying. So the fantasy was basically like, we're resting. Like it's kind of like, we'll put that into terms of Joe Flacco at this point to get here.
Flacco's resting, yeah.
I know.
What a year.
Kudos on your 4 games. Now you get to take a bye before you get to play some playoffs. It makes you feel any better. Meaning somebody asked me my Super Bowl pick, and I did say Ravens, and I think the Eagles rebound. I think only because I don't want to go with the chalk.
I feel like I'm gonna go with the chalk. I have a Ravens 9-1 Super Bowl bet from week 8.
Ravens Niners
after week 8. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a pretty chalky pick, but I mean the Ravens are what they have done. Like Lamar with 7 14+ point wins against teams above 500, and the fact that they just over the last 2 weeks absolutely crushed the Niners and the Dolphins is pretty remarkable. And with all the AFC teams that are just questionable, like who's getting in and all these like first-year quarterbacks. And I feel like, I don't want to say the path is easy, but I feel like they're definitely the best team in the AFC.
Well, I'm glad you brought that about Lamar Jackson because I did have something for you guys to see. Kind of a mini game we're going to sprinkle in through here is true or false. It's very simple. Not two truths, one lie, meaning it's very simple. Just
thank you for
this is fact or fiction. So, of the top 10 quarterbacks this year in points per game, to be clear, and this is with dropping out Joe Flacco because it's only the 4 games. So top 10, at least 8 games played. This includes Kirk Cousins. There's a big hint. So I just kind of gave you a freebie right there. So top 10 quarterbacks in points per game. True or false? 4 had at least 450 rushing yards, and then another 2 had at least 210 rushing yards. True or false, Meaney?
I would say that's true.
Lauren?
I'm also going true.
It is false because 3 had 210 plus more rushing yards of the remaining. So 7 of the top 10 actually had 200 plus, and then another 4 of those had 450 plus. So it was true, but it was also not completely true. So it is false. To give you an idea, here's the answer. Hey, look, you didn't get it right. That's all it is. Looking back, because the reason I brought this up is because somebody asked me yesterday, and they're like, what do you think about how the first early year that we've had quarterbacks go? Like, everybody was actually like on the proponent of like, hey, we'll give you permission. You can go take quarterbacks early. But of the first three, Patrick Mahomes was a giant failure for where he was drafted. Let's be clear. I mean, he was barely a QB1 on the season. Actually, depending on your league, he wasn't even a QB1, which is crazy to think about. But Hurts and Allen definitely hit. The next tier, which at the time was 4, Lamar Jackson was the only one. Like even Justin Herbert getting hurt. You know, like even if you include him in points per game, he's not top 10. He's not top 12. That entire next tier, Joe Burrow got hurt, but also he played through injury. If you want to give him a pass because like we knew the numbers weren't there at the beginning of the season, but whatever it is, that second tier kind of really did nothing outside of Lamar Jackson. And then you have these rushing numbers on top of it. So it's kind of the tight end argument we've been having for years is it's like, hey, get the first tier, but if you miss the first tier, just wait. Is the answer now same thing, hit the first tier, meaning if you get it, or just wait forever. And if you wait forever, just get somebody who runs.
Like, for quarterbacks. Yeah, I think it was tier 3 that busted was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. I'm willing to give Burrow
because
a pass.
Tier 2 is you're going to give Burrow a pass?
Yeah, like for me, tier 2 was
Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, Fields, Lawrence.
Yeah, like tier 2 for me was just Lamar. Like I had those 3 guys. And
okay, well, you're on a special tier all by yourself.
but heading into the season before Burrow suffered that injury in the preseason, tier 3
I'm
across
here.
the board.
Sorry. The nitpick it. Well, this is why I'm giving tier 2 is because this is rounds. I'm looking at it right now. This is going back to ADP. The turn of round 3, 4 down to the middle of round 5. Basically picks 36 to 55. And then there's a giant drop off from Lawrence all the way down to Deshaun Watson at 83. That's why I created that as one. That's why I consider that Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, Fields, Lawrence as one tier.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, everybody had their different tiers, but I think that's fair. But yeah, to your point, I mean, you want to have a rushing quarterback. We're seeing more of them across the board. They come with a safe floor. If they're not tossing touchdowns, if 40 rushing yards is like a free touchdown. And I know that Jordan Love didn't do that. He finished as a borderline top 5 quarterback. Brock Purdy didn't do that, but
still had 248.
Love was roughly like you're starting with half a touchdown a game, like 20 rushing yards.
And he ran for
game.
4.
So he ran for 4. I mean, this year was just so different. Over 20 teams went to their backup quarterbacks. We saw over 60 different starting quarterbacks. I don't know how much you can take on this and move it forward to next year, but the biggest bust for me at the quarterback position, apart from Patrick Mahomes, was Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Herbert, everyone just loves Herbert. And last year he finishes 17th, 18th in fantasy points per game. Like we talked about this in the Sirius show in New York when we were drafting. That Brock Purdy had more fantasy points per game than Herbert, but nobody seemed to care about that. It was Herbert. He's the big flashy quarterback. But he doesn't come with a big rushing floor either. So I don't know. I mean, I guess get your guys early.
Real life, the dude's 1-0, and people want to put him in the Hall of Fame already.
I know. It really is a conversation for another day. I don't want to say that
you're creating a show sheet first in the offseason. That's 2 conversations for another day.
The way that people talk about him, though, Lauren, the way that people talk about this Chargers team in general, I know now is different.
Hold on. Don't give her the Herbert talk real quick because I want to pivot off this conversation about that because I'm gonna play devil's advocate with Lauren for the rushing thing. Because here's the counterpoint is, you get the rushing. Lamar Jackson actually made it through the entire season. But you have Justin Fields who got hurt. Anthony Richardson ended his season. There was somebody else. I was trying to think of somebody else. But, I mean, we go back to last year. Lamar Jackson got hurt 2 years in a row. Jalen Hurts missed the game last year. There was actually at the end of the stretch, he wasn't just – Jalen Hurts lost people championships last year. So I just want to say, is there a counter argument you would want to even make that by taking – a run-heavy quarterback in fantasy, you're risking yourself, because it goes back to something we talked in the preseason for Joe Burrow was why I was away from Joe Burrow. As I said, because if I'm drafting a quarterback of his caliber, I don't want a second quarterback. I'm using that spot on something else because I'm just starting him every single week. I'm not going to put that decision on me. And knowing that we had to wait a week or two was why I didn't draft him. So the second part comes in. If you draft somebody like Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray even next year, do you actually avoid their cost because you're like, well, now I might actually have to get myself a backup quarterback? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I see where you're going there. I think for me, the sweet spot, and this may sound, a cliche, maybe chalky, since we already brought that word up. Let's just go ahead and repeat it because I'm good with that. It's balance, right? You want to have a balance of both. That It's obviously hard to do. It's difficult. We try to predict it every single year, but there's always going to be risk when you have a quarterback that puts himself into harm's way. And we've heard this argument when a quarterback establishes himself as a runner, he gets tackled as a runner unless he starts sliding XYZ. You know where I'm going with this. So I think there's a balance that we're going to have to really, really keep in mind. I don't have a problem rostering a second quarterback if you do not feel comfortable where your chips have fallen, right? Or where with the cards you were dealt, this is kind of the best tier break, or there's a tier break here, but you really like this guy. I don't mind that. It just becomes a problem with roster construction. And I think that this was a very strange year for multiple reasons. But this was one of the first years that I was on board with getting a getting a quarterback earlier than I normally do. I like the late round QB. I didn't mind this year, and it came back to bite me in the butt several times. So I feel like this is going to be a swing back to the median of where I was before. So I really want to see what happens in the offseason, see what changes are made. But it's always a tricky balance. Is a tricky fine line that you got to walk between the two of them. But yeah, in some of those cases, Jake, when you do have a mobile quarterback, you do have to make plans and make sure that you have a backup, especially in deeper leagues.
It almost sounded like you were trying to do Curb Your Enthusiasm. A tricky situation there.
One more season.
Yeah,
I don't mind the risk of having that rushing quarterback. It's just so nice to have.
Yeah, just understand that there will be.
Sure. Yeah, there definitely is the risk. Luckily, like you said, Jake, Lamar was able to finish the season out this year. Jalen Hurts able to finish the season out, even though he didn't run as much this year as last year. But man, Lamar, if you had him in the finals, I know I went up against him in 2 or 3 leagues, and he crushed me. So he comes with that floor, and he comes with that ceiling, and I'm sure next year, like, he's 100% in that tier. I mean, you can make the case he's quarterback 1. Him, Josh Allen, and Hurts. So that tier is really nice. But every year, I mean, guys pop up. Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. These guys were well outside the top 20 drafted at the quarterback position. Matthew Stafford down the stretch of the season. So there's always a couple guys that you can find off the waiver wire if you don't want to be aggressive. But I think I will follow the same suit as I did this year. I will not mind taking one of those top 3 quarterbacks.
Okay, well then let's kind of get back into the conversation about Week 18, because for everybody out there, I think we have a good comparison situation here. Something we can definitively say is that Alvin Kamara is hurt. Very unlikely he plays Week 18. So that means Jamal Williams is in, who had about 90% of the workload. So I think we got to have this is a good, not necessarily making a list, but Jamal Williams versus to kind of give you some of these scenarios that we might have to play through here. Because right now, I have Jamal Williams at RB15. Like, I know he's getting all the work, but he's also in front of a bunch of people that's like, does he play the full game? Does he not? Is he even out there to drive? Derrick Henry is the first one to come to. And Derrick Henry is like, look, last game, likely with this team, new contract, probably as a 1 year off type of like a Dalvin Cook situation at this point of his career, you would assume. Maybe gets a 2 year. But point being, this could be it. And you could look at this 2 different ways. And Lauren, this is your guy, so this is going to look at it. It could go one of 2 ways. It could be the Titans being like, you know what? Let's get Derrick Henry everything he can in the last game, get him some more touchdowns, get some marks on his record. I don't know if he has anything to play for contract-wise. I don't think he does. But you could go that direction, or you could go, we're going to continue with giving him half the touches. Let's get a little bit more of Spears. We get an evaluation of Spears of if we try to go into 2024 like the Bucs did with Rachaad White and say, he's our guy. So would you go Jamal Williams or Derrick Henry in Week 18?
Okay, I would go Jamal Williams, because I do not understand what is going on. First of all, I didn't understand what was going on the last several weeks, well, many weeks of this silly friggin' offense that just gave me a headache and heartburn. Not just my actual stomach acid, but my heart burned as well, because y'all know how much I love Derrick Henry. So I am going to go Jamal Williams over Derrick Henry, because this situation is so murky, unless obviously something clears up before the game starts. But even then, I don't even know if I believe that. So I'm going to go with the volume. I'm going to stick with my argument, double down, and I'm going to say I'm going with my argument of volume.
Where are you going, Meaney?
Yeah, I would take that too. I mean, Henry hasn't done a whole lot. It's not the same Henry that we're used to seeing. The ceiling hasn't really been hit in a lot of games. I know that Variable said that he's got to have his boys ready to go, and I think they're 5.5-point dogs. I would say that they hang around and keep this thing close, but the Jags pass defense has been off over the past few weeks. Their run defense has been a little bit better. Something just went in my eye. Oh my goodness. Their run defense has been a little bit better. It's like, what the heck? So as long as Kamara sits, we'll see. Like, I would probably still go Jamal anyways, because he's probably headed.
That looked like a pretty bad sprain at the time.
Yeah. This is a game that the Saints need to have. Even if the Bucks lose, there's still a way, or the Bucks win rather, there's still a way that they can get into a wild card spot if the Packers and the Seahawks lose. So there's something to play for this New Orleans team, and they're playing pretty good lately.
There is, but which do you think is more likely? The Packers and Seahawks lose and the Saints win, or the Commanders win and the Eagles win? Like, I think the Commanders winning and the Eagles beating the Giants is more, as long as the Eagles play everybody, is more doable than a 3-part in what you're talking about, where they both have to lose.
Well, I think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons.
Packers get the Bears at home.
And the Bears have been really good over the past few weeks.
I was going to say that one I could see, but the Seahawks in Arizona, it's a divisional on the road. I could see
that one. I could see
both
too,
of them.
Man.
Both.
Yeah, they're just like within 2.5 point spreads. I mean, Arizona's playing decent. Seattle on the road, divisional game. Clearly, Gannon does not care about draft picks. They're trying to win football games. And I really like where Chicago's at. You've talked about their defense for the past 8 or 9 weeks. Their defense has been stout. Justin Fields is playing fantastic. DJ Moore as well. Khalil Herbert over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but do you really think Tampa Bay is going to lose in Carolina?
I don't. So I think that doesn't matter. If they want the division, that matters. But they can get a wild card spot if Green Bay and Seattle lose.
That's a long way to get. Wow, that's a really what are they like? The Packers, 9th, I think, 10th right now. I know. So, all right, let's come back to this. Jamal Williams over Ezekiel Elliott for Mr. Nice Guy asking. That was actually going to be one of the people I asked about anyway.
Yeah. Zeke against the Jets. He's been pretty decent too, but yeah, Jamal. I think there's a higher ceiling there for more points.
More with it. Right. How about?
Yeah, I had to think about it, but I will go.
The Jets and Pats could be 9-6 final or something.
I know,
like
it's
that.
crazy.
How about my boy is back? Mevin Singletary is back in the last 2 games. Would you go Devin Singletary Mevin Singletary? Would you go him, or would you go Jamal Williams? Because I'm going Jamal Williams.
I do have Singletary ranked higher.
Seriously?
If that's
after the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I do. I like the matchup against the Colts. A lot on the line.
What's his ceiling though? Like RB20? Even with all the
we
work?
just saw a single a couple weeks ago, and he had like 138 yards and a couple scores. Like, that's probably the ceiling. He had 2 massive games in a row.
I meant more so this week. All right, so Lauren, you break the tie. Would you go with Mevin, or are you going to go with Jamal Williams?
Jamal Williams.
There you
Sorry,
go.
Chris.
See? All right, here's an interesting one. No. This is really interesting. Do you play, again, this is all the assumption that there is no Kamara. It's significant injury, but, maybe shocks and everything comes to Friday and people are like, well, I wasted my time listening to 5 minutes of you guys. Oh, that happens every week anyway. So, Jamal Williams, Lauren, you go to you root for those Lions, who's part of the family over there. Would you go Jamal Williams or would you go Jahmyr Gibbs, not knowing how much Jahmyr Gibbs might play?
That's a good one. I actually will lean Jahmyr Gibbs. I will lean Jahmyr Gibbs over Jamal Williams, but if ideally I want both. So just throwing that out there, everybody. I want to be able to play both of them. But when we're going to talk about ceiling, I do like Jamal Williams' ceiling, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs' ceiling is higher.
Meaney?
I wouldn't play Gibbs. I got a few guys on my list that I just wouldn't play at all. Gibbs, Kyron Williams, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerome Ford, David Montgomery. These guys are not touching my lineup because I just don't think – same thing with Gus Edwards, any Baltimore back. I just don't feel like they're going to play. I don't want to have 1 or 2 series of Jahmyr Gibbs. I get it. We all agree. He's got the highest ceiling. He's fantastic. But like what we said earlier,
I really don't
Detroit
feel like
has really nothing to play for. I think you're gonna hear something that Sirianni's sitting some key guys. Yeah, I really do. I think that they know that there's no chance for them to.
But there is. And how stupid would you look if you sat your people and then the Commanders somehow pulled off the upset?
They would. It would look dumb. Maybe they just kind of keep an eye on things. The game starts at the same time. That's going to happen. You're going to look, hey, Dallas has a 13-point lead.
That's the thing. I could see them getting yanked.
We'll rest some guys in the second half. But I don't think you're going to see Swift get 20-plus carries. Or like 15-plus. I think you're going to see a lot of Kenneth Gainwell. But you're going to see a lot of Boston Scott.
Yeah, I can definitely see
You're definitely not going to see Devontae Smith. And AJ is going to be limited, and I would imagine Hurts is like sitting.
You don't think Devonta Smith plays at all?
No, he's got that mild ankle sprain. There's no point of rolling him out. He's in a walking boot as of yesterday, too.
Well, what if we had a show on Saturday? We would have to circle back around. I just think you have your entire team resting. Like, you know who's above all these people? And I have a toss up just for this one straight up. I have Khalil Herbert at 14.
Man, he's a top 10 back. Get him higher.
The thing is, do you want me to put him in front of Travis Etienne or Bijan Robinson or Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon.
I want you to put him ahead of Bijan Robinson and Joe Mixon. Yeah.
Yes.
No, here's why I'm on Joe Mixon.
Winner.
Oh no, here. I can see Bijan. Maybe it's against the Saints. Maybe they finally unleash him again. Like the times they've unleashed him, it's been terrific.
That would be pure Arthur Smith that he gets 25 touches in this game.
In the final game.
Yeah.
100%. No, the reason I'm going to the Joe Mixon is because I know what you said about resting the Bengals, but that might be a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins bang up type of situation. They leaned on Joe Mixon again last week, pretty much out of it. And the Browns defense is going to be half sitting anyway. Like, I feel like, again, this is just history, but a lot of times these veterans like Mixon, like Derrick Henry, in the past years, Mike Evans, Tom Brady was going after him because he had a contract bonus situation. But you get these veterans in the final game where it's just like, here, do it all. We don't care. I just feel like Joe Mixon's going to get like 20 touches. That's why. Like, if you wanted to say Herbert, I have no problem with that. This is right now not knowing if Deonta Foreman is going to show up for that very final game. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that was weird, right? He was, a personal reason a couple weeks ago, and then I think it was a team decision. They just straight up made him inactive. Yeah, the past 2 weeks, though, for your guy, 20 for 112 and a touchdown, 18 for 124.
He's our guy. He's our show guys. Let's be honest. You guys get credit. We were all on Khalil Herbert. I threw out the number again. Somebody was tweeting about him. I was like, every game he's had 10 carries, he's run for at least 50 yards. There's been 15 games, and in 7 of those 15 games, he's run for 97 plus.
Yeah, it's crazy. I had him in a dynasty league, and I just squeaked into the playoffs. This guy was one of my big RBs, and he just came out of nowhere for me in the last 2 weeks. But the 38 attempts on the ground and over 200 rushing yards, plus this matchup against the Packers is a really good one. I think Chicago's going to upset Green Bay. I really do. I think the Packers are totally overrated.
And ruin their own pick.
Should be
and
good.
Here's one for you.
Do
one other little trivia thing to say true or false on that I had for you guys today. Of the top 12 running backs in ADP before the season, 3 finished in the top 12 in points per game. True or false? True or false? True or false, Lauren?
Oops.
I'm going to say true. I'm trying to run through the names. Saying true.
Do you want me to run through this? I'll even give you some extra kudos, like credit bonus hint here. How about that? CMC, Eckler, Bijan, Barkley, Chubb, Pollard, Henry, Jacobs, Najee Harris, ETN, Stevenson, Mixon were the top 12. Do you continue with your true answers? Those were the top 12 in ADP.
Yeah. False now.
Oh, you should have stuck with true. It was only 3. The 3 were CMC, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. Barkley, also there. Travis Etienne was there. But you had Eckler miss wildly. And this is points per game, mind you, too. So this isn't just, missed time for injury, because Chubb missed time for injury. Didn't finish that. I guess if you technically pull out the game that he got hurt, he probably could have made it in here. But Chubb, Harris, Henry, Harris, I still can't believe. Every time I see Harris's name, I laugh. It's just like that he was a top 12 running back. It's just
how about George Pickens as a top 20 wide receiver? What did he do? The last 2 weeks were great for him. He finishes. 20.
I can laugh, but Jahan Dawson's a top 30 wide receiver. I did that. So I don't want to laugh at everybody. I made some big mistakes myself. Stevenson, injury. Mixon, interesting. Mixon barely missed. Mixon was 13th. So he barely missed. But here's the thing. Of the others that were inside the top 12 at the end of the year, Rachaad White, Breece Hall, James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs. Their ADP was between RB13, just missed at Jahmyr Gibbs, down to RB26 at Rachaad White. 13, 17 for Breece Hall, 24 for Cook, White at 26. This is not 0 RB, Meaney, but is it going back to the... No, it's not. It's really not. Because there's a lot of those names that I listed off that were inside the top 16. Like if you really want to nitpick that they finished, they still were clearly top 20. So it's not really it's not zero RB for the fact that like we could include another half of the list. So is this more of, do you try to double tap a top 30 pick instead of, double tapping a top 15 running back? Or do you just take one like we did the hero RB and come back around again? Or would, like, knowing this, it's another year of it, does this change anything for you strategy wise?
I'm going to have the same strategy. I'm going to be like a hero/zero RB. I think those wide receivers are all safer. I mean, look at the top 12 wide receivers. And then you look at some of the top 12 backs. Like, I get it. Joe Mixon finishes RB 12, but he's a couple points, ahead of, say, DeAndre Swift, who went, a couple rounds after him. I'm still going to live in that quote unquote dead RB zone where guys like Dave Montgomery went, Rashad White went, Isaiah Pacheco went. Like, those were, you're not going to hit on all of those running backs. Like, there were certainly some busts in that range, like Miles Sanders comes to mind. But the way that I'm picturing how the first round is going to go in drafts next year, I think that we're going to see like 2-3 running backs, like CMC 1, 2, whatever, Kyron Williams.
I'm so glad you said that, though. You want to know why? Because you want to know how many of the top 12, wide receivers? You want to actually here? This isn't even a true or false. Do you want to guess how many of the top 12 wide receivers we could have the same conversation for?
I'd say like 7 of the top 12.
Nope. Lauren.
Oh God, 1.
Are you doing points per game or finishing?
Both. It's 5. It's 2 more. And if we drop down to the top 16, by the way, if you include the next couple, Ofer. None of the rest of the ones even get into the 12. Even if you go down to 16, you can't even pull those up to, because here's why. Jefferson, yes, points per game, no points overall, hurt. Chase missed both. Hill in there. Diggs missed both. He actually did. He was barely top 15.
This is a top 12 wide receiver.
No.
Stephon Diggs.
No.
What do you mean no? I'm looking.
I don't know what you're looking at. I'm looking at it too. He's 13th, and then he's worse than that in points per game. He's actually 17th in points per game.
Yeah, I guess we're just on different sites because, like, for me, it's Lamb, Tyreek, Amon-Ra, AJ's 5. And Jamar Chase is a top 12, and so is Stephon Diggs. Like, those guys are all in half-point settings. They're all top 12.
Okay, so like maybe like this stuff, what they maybe factor in like a fumbles or something else right there. But so they're inside the top 15. But anyway, continuing the Cup situation, we can even throw out. But Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle. I mean, injury or not, he's got that situation. Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, you mentioned. T. Higgins fail. Calvin Ridley fail. And then you go down from there, and that's where we start hitting, just like the running backs, Debo, Cooper, DJ Moore, Hopkins fail, Watson complete bust, and then you have other names in here. But it's the same argument. There's 2 more, and you kind of overlap the same argument. It's not really that much more, and that's what I was getting at, maybe, is that 2 or 3 wide receivers outside the top 20, like to include the entire top 20, to even go to the top 25. But if you go to the top 12, it's 5-3. If you go to the top 20, 25, it's like 7-8. And that's my point, is that it's really not that big of a difference.
I agree to disagree.
The numbers are right there.
I mean, I just told you some of them too. Like, again,
and I gave them to you, and I said,
and it's not going to change. It's going to be taking one running back in the first 3 or 4 rounds and loading up on these wide receivers. It's a passing league. There's a lot of safety here at these wide receivers. Even some of the guys that did make top 12, they weren't significant busts. If you're just looking at them overall, like Devontae Smith, like top 20, not a significant bust. DK Metcalf still top 20. Murray Cooper top 20. Devontae Adams, had a crazy bad year, right? I mean, yeah, he didn't finish as a top 5-7 wide receiver, but he still finished as a borderline wide receiver 1 compared to some of these other running backs like Eckler. Like, he didn't even come close to RB1. It's just an example. But anyways, that's my strategy. That's kind of how I play. It's a wide receiver world.
Which Saturday? Oh yeah, it's like they didn't even come close. Garrett Wilson not even come close. Like,
Garrett
Wilson, go both ways.
Garrett Wilson, can we give him a little pass? No.
No, because you can't do the same thing at running back. What are we gonna like give a little pass for? I don't know, Aaron Jones because he got hurt. Like, I'm not gonna give passes for anything.
Garrett Wilson didn't get hurt. He lost his quarterback in the first snap, but he still finished as a wide receiver.
So you had to suffer through the misery the entire year versus actually.
Yeah, that's when I would give a pass as opposed to Aaron Jones, who's been hurt multiple times over the course of his career.
Does this look back change anything for you, Lauren?
I don't even know what is happening right now. Like, what are we even talking about?
Do you like to draft running backs early, or
Chris-
do you like to draft wide receivers early?
All right, thank you. I didn't know if I should get my popcorn and just be like, what's going on with the two boys right now? Just
I know,
I
just
agree to disagree.
talking it out.
I'm giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm still going to go with this a similar thought process to Chris Meaney's. If I'm drafting early, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot by passing up on someone like Christian McCaffrey. But I think this coming year, more so than in years past, I think I am going to start looking at the wide receivers in the later draft spots of the early rounds. So, Meaney, you've always been very high on the wide receivers, more so than I have been. And I think I'm going to lean towards your strategy a little bit, but I'm not going to pass up on guys, like I said, like a Christian McCaffrey, just to get a Tyreek Hill. Although I do understand why someone would want to do that. I'm just not comfortable doing that. But instead of picking up an RB later on in the first round, I think I may wait. So it's interesting. I'm going to need to incubate this change in direction of my draft process, because that usually gets uncomfortable. But we'll see.
All right, so
We'll see. I am looking at wide receivers differently, though, Meaney. You've made a conversion-ish, sort of.
Since we're talking wide receivers, would either of you risk anybody on the Houston Texans after Nico Collins? Because we know Nico Collins, but likely no Noah Brown. Robert Woods, if plays, yes or no? And then if Robert Woods is out, Xavier Hutchinson, like they're facing the Colts, is a good matchup. But would you risk any of them? Like, there were even coming to conversation, it's week 18, so it might not. Meaning,
yeah, I don't think, like, I wouldn't mind maybe playing Schultz as like in a flex spot potentially. Like, he's probably the number 2 option there.
Xavier Hutchinson or the rumored first top wide receiver for the 49ers with Sam Darnold, whoever it might be. If it's Ronnie Bell, if it's Juwan Jennings.
Maybe I would play Juwan Jennings or Ronnie Bell.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. It's still going to be Shanahan calling plays. Yeah.
What if they keep Nelson Aguilar out there for the Ravens in week 18?
Don't mind Aguilar. I did move him up a little bit in the rankings. I was like, oh, Aguilar, he's going to catch a pass or two from Huntley. That's one that I can get. I don't expect OBJ to be out there or Flowers to be out there. Yeah, if he plays. What a weird week, man. Some people do play. I think Mr. Nice Guy he plays week 18.
I know people who actually push their championship to week 18 to keep playing, and they're
what a
insane
crapshoot.
Yeah, speaking of Mr. Nice Guy, we have some lovely people in the chat today. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
How about Darius Slayton?
We're going to get to him. Jump around.
I think he's an interesting little dart throw, I guess.
Okay, well then we'll just talk Giants then. We're going to talk quite a few wide receivers. So we'll talk. Tyrod Taylor at least takes shots downfield, and the shots downfield have been Darius Slayton, not Jalen Hyatt, who had like a little bit of a run briefly, and then now he fell back down the depth chart, which is weird. Like another situation. Like, what are you evaluating? I don't get what the Giants are doing. Not that I think Darius Slayton doesn't deserve to still be on the team next year, but we already know he's not like a 1 or a 2. So what are you getting out of this? But hey, faces your Eagles, meaning you apparently are going to throw in backups from college at this point, according to your reports. But Darius Slayton,
it looks like anyways.
Wan'Dale Robinson, who gets the opportunity to abuse the slot opportunity there, which has been this entire year. So Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, if you had to only pick one, I know where Lauren's going. Do you still stick with Darius Slayton or both? Tyrod Taylor, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson stacked tomorrow on the Joe Holka Show?
Oh, yeah. If it's not Saquon, you got to be rolling out some of the passing options. I think Saquon should be able to run all over them. But, yeah, Wan'Dale, they're using him in different ways. I am excited about him. Like, that's something I agree with your Hyatt point. Like, let's see what you got in the kid. I think they're doing that with Wan'Dale, and that's I remember watching last week, and he had a couple end arounds, and I was just like, this is why I kept you on my dynasty squad. You're on the taxi squad. I can't let go of you. You got some highlight reel plays to your game. So yeah, I would I mean, I think it's as simple as there's a little bit of a floor with Wan'Dale, PPR league, and a half point. There's that ceiling boom bust potential there with Darius Slayton. We already saw on Christmas Day, right? Those two teams hooked up, and Tyrod hooked up with Slayton on the deep ball there. So I don't expect Slay to play in this game.
Okay. You're going Wan'Dale Robinson. We know that, Lauren.
Oh yes, I love Wan'Dale Robinson. I do with an unholy amount of love.
Oh, he's your guy? Didn't know how much
you.
you loved him.
Oh my God!
You should
Well,
be
I
watching
talked
him.
about
Where
him
you
for
been?
like the last
Yeah.
2 years.
Nice.
Well, because
Meaney
he's not on
tunes
the
out at
waiver
that
show.
point.
He's not on the waiver show with us, and Wandale Robinson always is on the waiver.
Is
wire,
usually
and I don't
a
know why.
waiver
Gotcha.
stable.
Gotcha.
Waiver Wandell.
Yep,
Yeah,
waiver
that's why.
Wandale. Wandale
Saquon
Robinson
will
waiver
should get
game.
20 plus carries though, and another 80 plus yards. He should be a good pick. Probably really chalky in DFS, but
Yeah, the Giants. Why don't you just run him into the ground after what you did to him in this contract situation? Then just go say, hey, go kick rocks to another team. This is why I don't root at the team anymore. People understand, like, how do you do this? This is why. This is how.
Yeah.
Because hate this organization. By the way, they could have the number 2 pick right now if they didn't screw up. What did I say, Meaney? Was it week 10? 9? They're going to win
They would
2 or 3
win a
games?
couple.
Screw this up?
Yeah.
Pointless
Yeah.
games. Scratched one out.
Arizona too,
just,
man. Like
just one win, and they're in conversation for the 3rd pick. One win. 2 wins, they have the number 2 pick locked down.
yeah, these teams are crazy. I'm not for tanking, but Arizona. I know that it was a big deal for Jonathan Gannon facing his former team, but you are moving, getting out of a top 3 to 7 to 8 just for what?
Change the face of the organization.
Yeah,
I mean, look at what the Texans just did. They turned 2 top 5 picks into 2 franchise players. You're granted, they involved a trade, but still, they were there for that reason to get that to happen. And this isn't even like the name drop thing, but you're right. Like when I did the podcast for The Athletic with D'Angelo Williams, he said tanking isn't a thing because it never can happen because, yeah, sure, the owners want it, but you have to get the GM on page, which might be the easiest one to do. This is what he's saying. I'm paraphrasing. But then you have to get the head coach on the same page to tank, which 9 out of 10 times you're not going to get. And then you have to get the players who their contracts and careers are on the line to possibly tank. Like, you just can't get tanking is not a thing because you can't. Even in the NBA, you can't. The only reason the NBA has it is because you get people who actually sit and not play games. Oh, by the way, Russell Wilson. Maybe it is in the NFL. Anyway, let's go back to wide receiver. Lauren, we got news as we're doing this. Trevor Lawrence going to go through limited practice, hoping to get out there for week 18. And I don't know why Jaguars just look to next year. Please stop. But anyway, if Lawrence is out there, your boy Calvin Ridley wasn't as bad, mostly because a lot of injuries. Like just this team suffered so many. But would you go Calvin Ridley, or would you play the game of chasing somebody that you know is in play, like a Josh Downs? Or heck, would you go Calvin Ridley or Amon-Ra St. Brown, not knowing he's starting the full game?
That's a good one. I'm gonna go Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Over St. Brown too?
I think so. And there's a difference between wanting to start someone like Jahmyr Gibbs because of that upside. But then, you did kind of call me out because I did contradict myself there. Again, I just don't know what to do when it comes with these teams that have the potential to get up early and sit their players. So I think where I need to remind myself, and also public service announcement for everyone else having to make these decisions, also for prop bets and for DFS too. This also counts when it comes to daily fantasy and betting. I'm going to want to stick with the teams that have things on the line that need a win.
Actually,
so I'm gonna have to pass over Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that feels blasphemous, but.
What's Jake's? I don't know. He's going to say something.
No.
funny.
I'm waiting for you to say what you're about to say because you were jumping in.
I was going to say Ridley. Like, I think just based on the fact that the Jags need a win to win the division.
Still have that slim chance.
Yeah, I mean, they win and they're in. It's theirs, right? Their division. And I don't know if we can look into week 11 too much, but it does look like it was Calvin Ridley's best game. He had 7 catches for 103 and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah. I mean, Amon-Ra could get 75 yards in the first quarter and a touchdown, and we all look silly. Like, that's enough to be a better player. But I'm going to take the guy that I think will play the entire game, and there's a lot on the line for Jacksonville.
No, I'm smiling because obviously it's not going to match at all because I'm wearing all gray and black today. I'm wearing my Ghostfacers t-shirt that I got for Christmas. Also, you see my Rashee Rice jersey is kind of semi out there. Oh, wait, you can't even see the best thing.
What a baller.
Wow. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles signed stuff. I tweeted about it. But anyway, I'm going to test. We're doing this. I'm going to see how bad my jinx is. I'm going to put it right over top.
It's not touching your head though. So I feel like this is not going to be nearly as bad.
There you go. There you go.
I said something.
Now it
didn't I?
now
I'm
it really
really
doesn't
sorry,
even match.
little big man.
Colts by 20.
That's my bad.
There you go. Go Texans. We'll see how strong the curse is, and then just ruin this entire team forever. And then go back to the Giants.
I like them to get a W on Saturday and get into the playoffs. That's CJ Stroud's first primetime game. No Texans on primetime football this year.
Are you serious?
Because I don't think anybody expected it. They didn't expect it to be that good. Josh Downs, is he a lock on the other side of the game?
Jets have been everywhere. Fun.
Yeah, of course. Rodgers. Go back to my We've seen Rodgers on the sidelines. Would you? I forgot what. I didn't really kind of hear it.
I said, is Josh Downs a lock on the other side of this ball then? In this game against the Texans?
I don't know if he's a lock. Is he a lock?
I'm top 36.
I think that's
Josh
fair.
Downs or Darius Slayton.
I'm gonna go Slayton.
Ooh.
I don't have the
numbers. I don't have the numbers up in front of me about your Josh Downs question. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but just real quick, how did Alec Pierce finish compared to Josh Downs?
How did
Downs fairly quiet down the stretch, but his past 2 games have been a little bit better.
I didn't watch enough of that game to make an informed decision, so that's why I was just asking. Josh Downs versus Alec Pierce.
11 targets last 2 weeks for Downs.
So going to those Packers, which you're not thinking that they have a chance, although over at FTN, DVOA has. No, you were like, I just could see it. The Packers DVOA, they have the Packers getting in based on that.
Yeah.
But we need to, as we're getting out of here, flowchart time for the Packers. Christian Watson. Would you just throw Christian? No, you're not, even if he somehow plays?
It would be classic Watson to have a 3-touchdown game here, week 18. But I suppose if your season is actually on the line and you're playing meaningful championship.
Okay, Christian Watson, meaningful game. He's playing, or Demario Douglas against the Jets. Where would you go, Meaney?
I probably would go with Demario. I don't really like it one bit.
It's the final week. Try it. Say it the right way.
If
say
you
say
could,
Demario.
Demario.
No, come on, more. Demario. Come on, do it.
There you go.
Let's go.
Do it. No, you can't do it. and also, he's not good enough to be in your lineup. So I've always tried to say after you said that, but you've done it so nicely, and I didn't want to be so negative after that. Like, don't play this guy. Don't play the Pats who can't get the ball past midfield. So maybe the answer is Watson. If he practices full all week.
Why do you hate Demario?
There it is.
Why? Why do you hate him? Why do you hate Demario Douglas?
I guess I don't hate him. I just don't like New England's offense.
Am I the only one who just? Am I the only one who just realized that in Super Mario, when he says "It's me, Mario," he's not saying "It's me, Mario." He's saying "Itsumi, Mario," which is, I think, Japanese for super.
Yeah. Get with the news like 10 years ago. Come on, Lauren.
Okay, because I literally just figured this out, and I was like,
I'm proud of you.
I am the only person that did not know this in probably the entirety of Earth.
No.
Wait. So what was your answer? You're going Christian Watson over Demario?
Yeah.
Your wide receivers in another castle.
Christian Watson, this guy's not going to play this week. I can't trust him.
I was given a scenario. So we know. Okay. So we know he's out.
I don't think Jaden Reed's going to play, right? Jaden Reed looks pretty
that's
dope.
what I was about to say. Jaden Reed, if he's in, that's very simple. He's the best one.
I was waiting for the flow chart. I had my pencil, my paper.
I saw that. If there is no Watson and if there's no Watson and no Reed, are you going Dobbs over Terry McLaurin against Dallas? Yeah, that was you didn't even hesitate. Oh. So
I thought you were going to still give me Demario, but I would go Terry McLaurin against Dallas.
Okay. Would you go Terry McLaurin or Romeo Dobbs with no Watson and no Reed, Lauren?
I'm going to go Terry McLaurin as well.
Okay. Dobbs versus Downs in that scenario.
Dobbs.
For me.
Okay, there we go. Dobbs or Higgins in that scenario. Assuming Higgins plays.
Higgins.
If Higgins plays, I'll roll him out.
And Jamar Chase
really?
is not, right?
No, Jamar Chase out there too.
Oh. Okay, but what if Jamar Chase doesn't play? This is the other part
This,
of the
we just this is-
right. So Chase,
we just
no
broke
play.
Excel with the if and
Hold on.
statement. Like this is
All right, Chase, no play. Yay, Higgins.
Chase no play.
You're
Chase,
gonna
no
want
play,
to watch.
Higgins, yay, right?
Yeah.
Chase play. Higgins,
How was that?
You're gonna want to tune in Saturday when we have more information on some of these guys.
You think?
There
Well,
are
this
gonna
is
be a
why
couple
good
that
updates
pop
early
up.
weeks.
There are gonna be a couple that pop up, but
Well, here's the
Dobbs
interesting
close
one.
is a pretty good chance of maybe scoring a touchdown if there's.
No, I have a few more as we get out of here. Dortch and Wilson for the Cardinals. Fire them up, or concerned about the fact that the Seahawks' pass defense continues to be pretty decent this year. Talk about them a lot. Talked about them last week. Talked about that they don't give up 90-plus yard games last week.
Yeah, Witherspoon is pretty solid. I thought Pickens had another good game. That was really nice to see. I like you're rolling him out, right? We're playing him as a top 15 guy, borderline.
Sure.
To let you down. But yeah, Dortch and Wilson. Wilson had a couple mishaps, but Kyler went back to him a couple times in that game. Got a touchdown, a 2-point conversion.
Then, Lauren, you guys are both going to have to make decisions here. All right. So, wait, first, I got to figure out which way. Well, no, because Lauren's already rooting for the human Dortch. So, human Dortch or Wan'Dale Robinson? You have to see?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go Dortch.
Okay. Then, who did you like more, Dortch or Wilson, Meaney?
I like Dortch more, too.
Well, then
Wilson's got a better chance of a touchdown, though. Give me Wilson. I'm fine with it. Give me Wilson.
Oh, I was going to give you Wilson versus Darius Slayton.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Wilson. Kyler's playing pretty good. They seem to want to win.
So there you go.
They're at home, right? Chance to knock out their division rivals instead of getting a top 5 draft pick. I think that's something that they'd probably rather do. But
and then, assuming there's no Cortland Sutton, as we get out of here, Jerry Jeudy. Can't do Doug Judy, as Pat Mayo would say. How about Doug Judy versus both the Giants wide receivers? Because you like Slayton, you like Wan'Dale, Lauren. Both of you guys, Jerry Jeudy versus your favorite Giants wide receiver.
I'll play the Giants wide receivers. I'm not playing any Jerry Jeudy. He just hasn't done anything. Even last week, I would say little Jordan Humphrey showed me a whole lot more on one play than Jerry Jeudy has all year long. So
I was literally just trying to look that up. So yes, I am going to play my Giants wide receiver over Jerry Jeudy.
And then last one, back to the Packers. I called him the Hail Maryest of Mary plays last week, and he hit Bo Melton with no Christian signed to the active roster. No Christian Watson, no Jaden Reed, banged up Dontavian Wicks. Bo Melton, as we get out of here, or Curtis Samuel.
Oh,
Bo Melton
all day long. All day long.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Bo Melton.
Yes. Oh, baby.
Because it's like Beowulf.
Can we get some props on Bo Melton? I didn't see any last week.
I didn't either.
I was looking for him too.
Oh, Bo Melton. Maybe I'll just maybe he's got like a 1.5 catch prop, but 15 targets, Jake. I know that's why you brought him up over the last 2 weeks. 10 grabs, over 100 and roughly 150 yards for him. Jordan Love has been very impressive. And yeah, he is. And this is they need some healthy bodies in Green Bay to catch some passes. Should be good. That
Seems to be a security blanket for good old Jordan Love. 9 targets last week, over 100 yards receiving. Hell yeah.
I've been really hard on Jordan Love this year, but at the end of the day, he had a really good season for what I feel like was basically a rookie. And the out of all the teams, like a wide receiver tight end room, the youngest, right? 2 rookie tight ends, rookie wide receiver, 2 sophomore wide receivers. Jordan Love he was really good, man. Maybe the Packers were onto something 5 years ago.
As Lauren just whispers her pick of Michigan in the championship, who are you taking, Meaney?
Yeah, I like Michigan too. I was really impressed with Penix Jr., man. Some of the
I love Penix Jr. Oh gosh, do I love him.
A lot of poise in the pocket, awareness of the pocket, can escape the deep ball touches that he had. But I think it's going to be really good. Offensive line, I think Washington's probably the best in college football, and then the pressure that Michigan can dial up. But I'm going to lean with Michigan and the defense that they have. I'm
going to continue to roll with what I tell people is wrong. I'm Michigan losing. Haha.
Nah.
Washington all the way. Nobody believed Washington can pull it off last week. I actually had a little bit. I'm really glad you can't bet for college football college anything in your state, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a little fun little parlay. I'm going to take Liberty to cover because nobody believes it. Glad I wasn't able to do that part, because I would not have hit my parlay for that one. And a little soft spot for all my friends that went to Liberty, because that was fun to start. Hey, they had the lead at the end of the first quarter, and then it went sideways.
Jake, give us on the way out. What team drafts Penix Jr.? What team? Where's he go?
Second round.
Second round?
I wouldn't be surprised if he
Minnesota?
goes a little bit
New
further.
England?
There's so
Two-
much chatter about him being not
Two
ready
knee,
for the
two knee,
NFL.
two knee injuries. He's been in college for 6 years. He's going to be 24.
That's a long time.
The history of 24-year-plus quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm so glad you said that, by the way. Russell Wilson is one of two that actually threw for 40,000 yards for their career when drafted, being 24. So I actually pulled up a little article about that, because I got in a little debate about 24-year-olds, and I know he's had injuries. Bo Nix is a whole different world. Bo Nix, enjoy your Kenny Pickett. You see how that goes. But we are going to be back next week and the week after and the week after. We're continuing on Wednesdays. Going to do playoff talk next week. Make our Super Bowl picks, help you for your playoff drafts if you're doing those, and lots of off-season talk, including why you might be interested in Penix and not Bo Nix. Who knows? Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Go Texans. Sorry I ruined everything.